This conference will now be recorded.
Very good. Thank you, Susan. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call to order. Welcome, everybody. Seeing that we have a quorum, we can have a meeting. Having said that, I'd like to introduce members to our new member, Elaine Kehoe. Elaine, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, more on membership later after the main part of our meeting. I'm going to remind everybody, and Susan, we can put this actually on the agenda so that I don't have to remember it. You'll understand what I mean. So to the members of our committee, our meetings are recorded. They are not broadcast like council meetings, with the exception of the last one that we had on Thursday, April the 20th, which because of the nature of that meeting, it was broadcast. But I just remind everybody, you are being recorded so that the public can watch this. Our meetings are all open to the public, but tonight we don't have what we would call a public meeting. They are open to the public, and that. So that's the introduction here. We've called to order. Second item on our agenda: emergency exits. We're all at our home, so if you have an emergency, you know where to go. And so that's that. To committee members, declarations of pecuniary interest, you can declare them now or at any point during the meeting. Next item, approval of we've all got it there. Do I have a mover to approve tonight's agenda, please? Barbara moving that, and a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Point number 5. Point number 5. Bear with me. Approval of our minutes. That was session 02 of 2023, which the minutes were sent out. Susan, thank you. It was a very long meeting, so thank you for the detailed minutes that you made. This was our meeting of Thursday, April the 20th of 2023. Elaine Kehoe, you weren't there, so you're not able to comment on this, but other members, are there any corrections, questions, comments about the minutes of our April 20th meeting?
I have a comment. I will move them as they're written. I think they were well done. Thank you, Susan. But I do have a comment. I think as a committee, we kind of put the applicant on the hot seat, and I'm not sure that as a committee we should do that. He was making an application that spent a lot of money on getting his proposal forth to us, and I really felt that we were pretty near badgering. So I just have that comment. I don't think we should be putting somebody in the hot seat. It's up to us to certainly to comment and make recommendations to the council, but I don't think we should be.
I'm having a difficulty.
Sorry, who are we talking? Who's that? Somebody said they were having a difficulty.
It's Barbara. I'm having difficulty. You're breaking up
Jerry?
with the internet. Yes.
Okay. Jerry was just making a comment. Jerry, I don't know if you can repeat some of what you were saying.
Sure. I just felt that we were kind of pretty near badgering the applicant in that last at that last meeting, and I don't think it's really up to us as a voluntary committee to do that. We are just to make recommendations to the council and one thing and another. And the applicant had spent a lot of money on his application, and if we didn't want to approve it, that was up to us. But I don't think we should have put him on the hot seat quite the way we did. And I don't have any feelings for him one way or the other. Certainly, he's a professional man, but I really felt that we were pushing that a little bit.
Okay, well, let's put that, Susan, if you could put Jerry's comments down. I'm not going to say, here's what I will say to that, Jerry. First off, thank you for your comment. But I do believe that each member of the committee have the right to approach it the way they want. And to ask the questions that they feel are appropriate, so that we can come to to a decision, a recommendation to council. Jerry, you and I have been on this committee for a very long time, and it's not the first time that we've had one of these types of meetings. And when there's controversy about an application, there's always going to be, I'm searching for the words. There will always be direct questions to the applicant. After all, the applicant in that case was asking for a major zoning bylaw amendment. And I think that if they don't want to be questioned, by our committee or council, then they probably shouldn't be asking for those things. But that's just my opinion. But at any rate, I will always leave it up.
Was just a comment, Bob. There was nothing. I just don't think we should get into battling.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And listen, we were there. Full confession, it's possible that I was one of the most aggressive ones with my questions of it, and I would do that again in a similar situation, and we likely will be faced with one later this year. So at any rate, Jerry, thank you. I appreciate that. Jerry, you said you had moved. Oh, Susan, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a comment. There's a little bit of feedback going on or something, and that maybe people are having trouble hearing a little bit. I know I am. If everybody could, I guess, mute until you unmute, that might help. And I'm gonna turn my video off too. Just
Okay.
for me, I don't know if I'm just having a little bit of a network.
A little bit, but not too much. I heard you as well, Barbara, just fine. I see you fine. I heard you fine. I heard Jerry fine. Anyway, just so you know, from my end of things.
I'm here.
Just to be clear, though, if I made just clarity, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about, but Jerry, you're talking about the Aragon application, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. David, yeah, we're just we will note Jerry's comments there, and again, Jerry, thank you for them. I appreciate that. Jerry, you said that you were moving to approve those minutes. I believe I heard you say that.
Yes, that's correct. I am moving.
Okay, so then Barbara or Elaine Capes, do we have a Barbara seconds that we approve the minutes of that meeting? Are there any objections to it? So seeing none, the minutes of that meeting are approved. Moving right along. As I said earlier there, the meeting is open to the public. And item 6 on our agenda here, with all of the meetings of council and our committees, we have a public question period. If there is anyone online who is listening to this, I'm going to ask now if there are any questions. And hearing none, public question period is over. So Elaine Kehoe, you're not new to these meetings, so you'll get used to the format is always the same. So that's it. That moves us into the real purpose of tonight's meeting, which and everybody got their packages. So I'm looking at the agenda here that Susan put together. I'm not going to read all of what Susan said there. We have nobody from the public here. If there was and they hadn't seen it, I would read all of those words. But let me just introduce this before I turn it over to Dave. It's the purpose of this meeting tonight. As I said, we have no specific application. This is basically an important educational meeting, a review of Bill 97 and the proposed new provincial planning statement, combining policies from a place to grow and the provincial policy statement. I will not read the rest of that. If we've all got our agendas, then we've all had that and we've all read that. So as I said, this is important because this Bill 97 does change a lot of things, and as the Planning Advisory Committee, we're going to need to deal with them. So as primarily educational, I really want to emphasize this. What we're not going to get into here tonight is a discussion of political ideologies and those sorts of things. Everybody can have those discussions with the friends and that kind of thing. So David, with that, David has provided us with his planning report of May the 9th, 2023. And this was a report, long, detailed, very detailed, and very well done, by the way, Dave. Which Dave, you have already presented this to council, correct? So Elaine,
That's correct, Chair Bob McCray. Yes, yes, Bob. It was presented May 9th. It was brought forward subsequently to the May 25th council agenda as a Schedule A item in view of the time period remaining to the environmental bill, Ontario Environmental Registry posting, which was June the 6th of the time. That's since been extended to August 4th. I can get into that detail a bit later. And it was also on the last June 13th agenda. Basically, well, yes, I did get a good, pleasant surprise from my dear CAO, who said that was an outstanding report, Dave. I like the tone, I like the scope, the context, and council independently also liked it well, so I feel pretty good about that, actually. And they said, how can I say this without trying to gloat? They said it was so good, we don't need you to write separate comments, just post the whole thing, the report with a cover letter to both the standing committee, which I did, and uploaded it to the ERO posting number as well. So there was a cover letter that went to the standing committee as a companion letter to the report I wrote dated May 9th.
Dave, sorry, enlighten me. Acronyms I'm not a fan of. What's the ERO, please?
Sorry, yes. So ERO stands for Environmental Registry Ontario. So anytime there is a piece of draft legislation afoot for review by the government in power, they generally post it to the ERO with a posting number so that they can solicit broad commentary on that draft bill from the general public, stakeholders, anyone actually who has an interest in the bill. ERO, the acronym Environmental Registry Ontario, for this bill 97, and you do not remember them, you don't have to remember them, but they usually start with a 019, as these did. And there were two. There was a 6821, if memory serves me correctly, which dealt with Planning Act technical matters following after Bill 23. We can talk a bit about that. And then the other bill was 0196813, and that was the one that got everybody's further and greater attention because it's dealing with, frankly, it hasn't been finished yet, the consolidation of the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. So that's a big deal. And then, of course, the way it's been consolidated and recrafted, if that's even a fair term, it's basically been dismantled in many ways, is the other big deal component to that bill. So, Chair McCrae, do you want me to go into that report a bit in more detail or an overview, or what would you like me to do? I know you've probably all read it.
Here's Dave. Let me say this. We could spend hours on this, hours and hours and hours on this, which we don't want to do tonight. So David, what I would ask you to do, please, is highlight the most relevant things from your planning report, especially how the major things that will affect planning in Mono, you'd probably speculating how the Planning, Environment, and Natural Heritage Committee, or as I affectionately call us, the Planning Advisory Committee, or the Planning Committee. So if you can highlight that, please, because there is a lot here. So I'm going to turn that over to you then, please. Does that, to the rest of the committee, is that work for you? Thank you, Barbara.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Dave.
So,
You got the floor.
okay, thank you, Bob. So, first off, it got a lot of attention. So again, let me just read. There was two bills. There was the 6821, which dealt with further technical matters flowing from Bill 23. We had a discussion on that. I think we had a discussion on Bill 23, and Bill 23 made a lot of changes to the Planning Act. It took away, for example, the rights of conservation authorities to deal with Planning Act applications. They're supposed to focus on more watershed regulated matters. We're talking Bill 23 now. It dismantled the upper level or upper tier planning authority positions for several regions. Niagara, coming off the top of my head here, Peel, York, Simcoe County was the one county. I think Durham as well. There were 6 of them. So this first posting through Bill 97 dealt with the aftermath in terms of technical matters, follow up. And then, as I said before, the other bill, the 6813, is dealing with the consolidation of the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. So the growth plan was brought in 2005 for the very reason of urban sprawl. It got to a point where anyone in the business or the industry or on the government side and policy started to realize we cannot continue to just gobble up farmland on the fringe of towns and cities in ad infinitum in order to provide affordable housing. And so in came the growth plan, and it did a number of things. It set parameters within towns and cities on full services. It's really urban focused, whether it's a small town, a big town, or a city. To, at that point, there's a line in the sand to your boundary, and then within that boundary, a certain percentage of growth going forward in municipality XYZ have to go up, so densify, before you could go out a bit more. That was a key provision in the growth plan. It set growth plan targets as well. There was a Schedule 3 to that plan. And it really focused on providing densification in urban areas, and that was a key policy principle in the growth plan, that the vast majority of growth, mean residential growth, shall be oriented to towns and cities on full municipal service and with the ongoing capacity to enhance or increase those services: potable water, municipal sewage treatment plants. Barrie is a classic example. It got a municipal treatment plan expansion back in the late mid-90s. And then in the early 2000s, it got a surface water treatment plant. Remember, it had, like many municipalities, had been on artesian wells, the big well heads. You see them, you know, we have one on Highway 9 for potable water. That changed to create more water volume, drinking water volume, with a surface water treatment plant in expansion. It's in the south side of Barrie. Bottom line is, for a town like Barrie, the growth plan was no problem. They just check mark the box. Do we have capacity? Of course we do. Do we have drinking water capacity? Of course we do. And then it was a question of where do you densify? Okay, put that aside. That's the growth plan. The provincial policy statement originated from a set of individual policies back in the late 80s. There was a policy on heritage, there was a policy on transportation, and so on and so forth. They were consolidated in let me just skip, I think it was early 90s to the PPS as we know it today. And that has morphed. It actually increased its policy framework over the years in 2000 and, I think 14. And it started to align with the policy framework of the growth plan, so that together they would help to guide growth to where it really needed to be on a sustainable basis. And in the balance, protect natural heritage. We all know the Greenbelt plan came in just before the growth plan, and also to protect farmland, right? That's a key principle in the provincial policy statement. Well, we know we've been suffering a lack of housing in the past few years, many years actually, frankly, and it's become a point of affordability issue. It's an affordability issue. We all know that. I don't need to wind that over again. We all know there's a problem with a housing shortage and affordability. And the current Ford government, of course, is desperate to try and create more volume, housing inventory. Good idea. You know, how we got to this point, though, regardless of the stripe of government that's been in Queen's Park, begs this question on its own. Because, as I've said to Bob and others, it's the same thing we say about healthcare. How did we ever get to the point where people were sleeping in the emergency wards waiting for a doctor to come by? But anyway, we're here. We have to get more housing. And again, it must predominantly be focused into urban areas, whether small towns, big towns, and cities. But also there's got to be some probable supply review for smaller municipalities, including like Mona. But again, we have limited services. So if we accommodate more growth, we have to be very mindful about where we put it so we don't impact our natural heritage and our agricultural character and land resources, right? Okay. Since I wrote this report for May 9th, there has been a flurry of comments, including comments from OFA, Ontario Federation of Agriculture. And interesting in a way, because arguably some farmers could say, oh, great, I'm going to work like the Dickens for 30 years and my 30 years is coming close, or maybe come and gone. I now get 3 lots out of my agricultural parcel. So this is one of the principles that came out of Bill 97. You own some farmland, they didn't have a minimum size, but I mean, think about something north of 15 acres. You got more than 15 or 20 acres, carve off 3 new lots from it, why don't you? Or if you have more, 3 lots you get, prime ag or non-prime ag, however arable it was. Well, it was hard to know leading up to the comments from OFA what they would say about that, because on the one hand, their membership could say, well, this is going to be nice for retirement to get 3 lots, and others, ardent preservationists of farmland, of course, would say, what on earth are we doing here? We need to preserve farmland. As it turned out, the consolidated statement from OFA came out strongly against that provision in Bill 97, that any farm parcel get 3 new lots. They took that to the province, they uploaded it to the posting, the ERO posting, and between the second and third reading of this bill, the province has come out and said, we're backpedaling on that. I haven't seen an actual formal black and white statement from the minister, Steve Clark, but I think it's safe to say going forward that the provision the initial draft of Bill 97 that said any farm parcel can get 3 new lots, we're talking residential lots, right, is off the table. So that's good news. That's very good news. OFA, Ontario Federation of Agriculture, came out and clearly said we need to strongly protect our remaining farmland inventory across the province, and obviously particularly Southern Ontario.
Dave, while you're on that, just to clarify, that would be the OFA that was included in our package?
Correct. There's a March 8th and a March 15th letter. I don't know what the date of that one is, but
This is
it led up to a March. Pardon me?
May 18.
Sorry, May, not March. May, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just so for clarity, everybody got this.
Just going to shut
And
my
it,
door.
Dave, it wasn't just the Federation, it was all the commodity groups. I think there was 13 commodity groups signed that letter before.
Yes.
Before
Yes.
it
And
was
kudos to the OFA and all the agricultural stakeholders out there who said, well, this would be a great opportunity for me, but they took the higher moral road, thankfully, and said to the province, don't do this. We need to keep these large operable farm parcels intact. So pin a medal onto the OFA and anyone who's behind them on that, because that would have hugely changed the landscape of Southern Ontario over the next 5 to 10 years, never mind beyond that. So, and of course, that's exactly why the growth plan came out, because there was lots being created in a much more less stringent, restrictive way before then, and causing too much sprawl, and causing too much agricultural land consumption. If you go to my report, I'm going to try and wrap up here because I want to be brief. I assume you all have a chance to read some or most of it. There's several acts that it is affecting. I've noted that on page 3, and then there's schedules. So these schedules provide further detail to each of the acts that the Bill 97 is meant to influence and change. Schedule 6, of course, is a key one under the Planning Act, and I think the other key matter that Bill 97 is wanting to do, because remember, it has not come into law yet, is to, well, first of all, dismantle the official plan review system, the MCR. I don't know why they just don't call it official plan update, but it's an acronym, MCR, meaning Municipal Comprehensive Review. It's a fancy phrase that just means we're updating our official plan. We all know, I think you all know, that Dufferin County is going through one now and coming to its conclusion of a draft amendment for that. But anyway, sorry, someone asking me a question? Oh, just background noise? Okay. And the other thing is, so getting rid of the MCR process and allowing easier municipal boundary expansions, whether from a private initiative or through municipality. Now, we haven't seen the regulations yet on a final Bill 97. I suspect, though, that if there is a permission for private sector municipal boundary expansions, and I'll explain briefly what that means, there will probably be, there's going to have to be some strict provisions in the regulation for the municipality to be able to support that or quash that. Private municipal boundary expansion, they happened in Barrie while I was there, by the way, is a developer buying up Farmer Fred's lands on the, just at the outskirts of the town or city boundary, okay, and generally across the road from the road that would divide or separate the city from the abutting township, and coming into the city or the town and saying, I just bought Farmer Fred's property. I believe it's designated prime ag or rural. It's zoned rural. Guess what we're going to do, folks? We're going to redesignate residential, rezone it residential. I'm going to come in a few months' time with a cart full of reports and a plan of subdivision to do just that and change all of that land into housing. And of course, in those days, it was predominantly, if not completely, low density. That would be a private municipal boundary expansion. I think it's fair to say that if those are permitted going forward, there will be more current provisions for housing, range of housing type, housing price point, and housing format and density. So I don't think we would see going forward just, a vast landscape of, the typical 2-story, 2-car garage, 2,000 square foot homes. Some perhaps, but not entirely 100% of that. But still, as an initiative, that's a huge change. That's a 180 from where we've been. And then, of course, the municipality can also expand its boundaries if it can make a case for needing more land. Now, the other thing I've written in my report is that, yes, we need more housing. We need more affordable housing, and certainly more subsidized housing, particularly in larger towns and cities that have all the supportive services in place to give support to supportive housing. And by supportive, I mean subsidized in any group, form, or nature, whether it's the 3-tier subsidized system that you see in some of the regions outside of Toronto. I can go into that a little bit. Group homes, other forms of care homes, etc. That's what I mean by subsidized. Anyway, I mean, I think that the conundrum is affordability. Really, housing supply can ultimately ramp up if the logistics post-pandemic start to come back in some kind of more seamless operational form. We've seen that in other areas. Try to buy a car today now, like if you want an electric one, you got like a long wait or parts for your car, things of that nature. You've all heard about those logistical issues that have come out of post-pandemic. So supplies in the housing system are gradually coming back to some level of normality, but price points are high. I mean, look at the cost of wood versus 3 years ago, for example. That's affecting price, of course. I think, but all that aside, the need for supply, the need for affordability housing, and the need for subsidized housing doesn't mean we need more land. I noted in that report that the regional commissioners of planning in Ontario, so those are the top planners in large regions, be it Peel, York, Durham, down in Hamilton, Niagara, and so forth, had a report conducted that showed there is enough land to create more supply. We don't need more raw land to create affordability, but we need a better way to get affordable housing built. There's a number of problems. I've noted it in my report. Getting skilled labor is still tough. We have a shortage of skilled labor. As I said just a minute ago, we're having some still lagging logistical problems with supply delivery, and supply cost and availability. And then there's a whole issue of servicing, right? Putting in municipal services is not cheap. And so that's why the density equation came about when it did, because municipal services, full municipal services, sewage treatment plants and municipal potable water treatment systems cost a lot of money. So they need to have the support of sufficient density and housing numbers to be sustainable and feasible. It's like transit. You don't put a high-speed rail between town A and town B if they've only got each 100,000 people. They need towards 1 million people in order to sustain the expense of a high-speed rail system, by way of an example. So that's a summation of it, really. I'm open to questions, of course. I just want to say one last thing, and that is it's not going to be easy. This conundrum between getting housing supply ramped up at an affordable price without gobbling up raw land or farmland is really going to create an ongoing collaborative effort between the public sector and the private sector. And I do think the one thing I will say about these bills, some of the provisions I think are going to be useful, and for lack of that silly phrase we use, cut some red tape. That's not really the issue, by the way. But they will help. Like one example, and then I'm going to take questions or shut up. Getting rid of the appeal process for minor variances. I mean, honestly, if a person comes in and says, I need to put my shed a little closer to my side yard, and it goes to our committee of adjustment, and committee of adjustment says, yeah, that's reasonable, Mr. Smith, that should be the end of it. The neighbor shouldn't be able to appeal because it's a foot closer, and the town planner and the committee have both agreed it's reasonable. So that's gone for it. But just by way of one example, there's a few things in the bills, including 97, that will help facilitate housing. But I think the biggest problem people are seeing is we don't need to gobble up more farmland in order to do it. We need to better utilize existing urban lands, underutilized urban lands, and we need more mixed use solutions as well, commercial, residential, to help ramp up the housing supply numbers. That's essentially what I've said in my report for Bill 97, and that's what we uploaded as Town of Mona comments to the ERO posting, and that went to council on May 9th.
Dave, I think the most important thing for the Mono Planning Committee and of course Mono Council, without getting into hysterics or conspiracy theories and the like, would be what practical or reasonable things could affect our rural town of Mona. I think that's, yeah. I mean, I hear from people, and there's just lots of hysterics and the like, and that, and whether any of that can happen in the town of Mono, where servicing, it's I'm on 3/4 of an acre here in the Island Lake subdivision on a private septic, and we've got 2 developments, Watermark and the one next door to me, Fieldstone, that are on communal septic systems that are having serious problems. So the possibility for some Snidely Whiplash style developer to come into the town of Mono and want to build a whole bunch of homes on small lots and the like. And the last planning committee meeting, the Aragon proposal, categorize it however you want, but to take up precious, valuable and precious little commercial zoned land that Mono has, I don't think Bill 97 greenlights that kind of development, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if there are any highlights there of how this potentially could affect Mono.
What could have, but what now appears won't, is the whole idea of 3 lots carved off an agricultural or rural arable lot. That would have, had that gone through, and I mean, I say that cautiously because Bill 97 has not yet been finalized towards final reading and royal assent, and who knows, the good government down in Queen's Park could do some switch and bait and put some kind of a corollary type policy relating to that back into the bill, although I somehow doubt it. I think they get tarred and feathered if they tried. So the fact that the whole notion that 3 lots can come off any agricultural parcel appears to be gone, and that would have been the greatest impact for Mono by far. As for lot boundaries, I mean, Mono's not in the business to do that anytime soon. We're a rural municipality, but we could be affected by the likes of Orangeville. Remains to be seen what might happen there. But they like any town or city are not entirely off the hook on densification. They still have to do that, but the parameters under which they've got to do it have been relaxed a bit. Before it was, you're not getting any, municipal town of Timbuktu on full services. Don't even think about a municipal settlement boundary expansion until you meet your density targets out to year, whatever the target year was, 2031 going forward, of course, or wherever it was going back. That's now been relaxed, okay? So we could see some activity in Dufferin that way between the Shelburnes and the Grand Valleys and the Orangevilles remains to be seen. But again, the other aspect of all this, if you're going to design and build a plane, it needs wings. It's got to fly. And I use that analogy, meaning you can assign all the darn capacity, the growth targets you want to the town of Timbuktu, but if it doesn't have the municipal sewage treatment and potable water systems available and sustainable, it's not going to fly. And the MECP needs to give those certificates for that kind of growth to actually become not just shovel ready, but sale ready for people to move in. You can't just say, well, you should grow by another 10,000 units and then the services aren't available. I mean, as I've said before, and I think where this is going, and that's a real challenge too, because of the cost of servicing, and to effluent out onto the Credit River or the Nottawasaga, as the town of New Tecumseh does, that's an ongoing challenge because they've got to meet MEC thresholds for phosphate, soluble phosphate and nitrate in the water, and comparatively speaking, those two river systems are not that huge. They're not the Amazon, right? And so where's a lot of the growth going to go? It's going to go on towns and cities. I've said this time and time again, on towns and cities with sustainable full municipal service on a big body of water. We know that's Toronto. We know that's out to Oshawa to the east and over to Hamilton to the west. But it also means perhaps also the likes of Owen Sound in the next 20 or 30 years, or Victoria Harbour in the Midland Peninsula, or Thornbury, Collingwood for sure, and Wasaga is definitely growing leaps and bounds and will continue to. Be interesting to see how much Wasaga Beach densifies in the next 10 to 15 years. So that's a pretty broad landscape of this bill, and where growth demand, I think, is going to go in the context of the need for associated services. For us, I mean, I think, well, we have our challenges because of our proximity to Orangeville. And let me just aside for the moment and turn to that particular ongoing issue. We looked at the Aragon proposal not long ago on April the 20th, leading up to the public meeting on May the 25th. So the STAT public meeting. Planning committee made its recommendation to council. Don't fiddle with any commercial industrial zone changes. And for those who don't know, the word is out. We had the public meeting for May 25th because of issues with the watermark declaration and some language in it. They did not speak that night, but they are coming back on June the 27th now that they have some clarity on that. But in the meantime, David Page of Aragon has appealed the development Watermark, or next to Watermark, the 220 unit townhouse development that you saw on April 20th to the Ontario, oh gosh, been a long day, OLT.
Land Tribunal.
Land Tribunal, thank you, Bob. So we haven't received the package hard copy through, Post Canada Mail yet, so we haven't accepted it. We've only had it received digitally. But when it comes in the front counter, at some point shortly right thereafter, we will have deemed to accept or acknowledge receipt of that appeal, and the gears will start rolling on that appeal. In the interim, it's probably not of any top secret nature to say that we've only recently received a package from Roxborough. Well, I suppose, this town planner shouldn't be entirely surprised, even though we've taken the position that that piece of land, the Beatrice Hand parcel up on the west side of Second Line, just north of our very much beloved, and I say that empathetically, Coles Crescent Industrial Park, well, Roxborough thinks that should be more housing too. I mean, I've been pretty clear about the fact that I think that should be a long-term, phase 2 expansion to the Coles French Drive Industrial Park, or at least a good majority of those lands. And of course, we set aside an open road allowance at the north end of that crescent to do just that. So that's another challenge for us. We've now got to deal with that as a residential submission coming forward. And just to wrap up, because I think I've said enough that I can for this matter so far, is that the servicing of that application remains, that's going to be the big question mark there if they succeed. Who knows what kind of, I haven't seen the unit count yet, but it's really going to, that's going to be a challenge for us because we've taken the position that should be industrial land in the long term. So,
Dave, that's and to the committee members, if you haven't looked at it, I will get the link. It's on the Town of Mono active planning applications. I will get the link to that, and I will send it to you, whether it's tomorrow or early next week. But it's the application is for over 400 homes on a 99-acre parcel on the east side of the second line across from the Dufferin
West side.
West side. I'm sorry. East side. I know the east side because that's where I go golfing at Dufferin.
That's where you go golfing.
Sorry, thank you for correcting me. On the west side, 99 acres owned by Beatrice Hands and that. So anyhow, I'll send that link out to people because when I allude to it, that's one we're going to get to deal with, and probably in a similar way to that. Help me. One other curiosity, Dave. I saw the announcement accompanying Blackhorn. Is that not the same group?
Blackthorn is Roxborough. So it's a funny name because unless they dither in other aspects of real estate development, Blackthorn is a planning consulting firm, but they call themselves Blackthorn Developments, I think. So maybe that really means, I think what that means is they're a planning consulting firm, but they are proponents for the development industry. That's their thing. They do consulting for private sector land development companies. They probably don't take, contracts from municipalities, for example. I don't know, but it is.
Is that not
Blackthorn.
the one? Blackthorn, is that not the one that's behind the 799 home application in Hillsburg?
I don't know, Bob. I don't know.
Anyhow, we'll get
Where did you name Hillsburg?
Yeah.
Or Hillsdale?
So no. I could be wrong. It was it was in this thing. I'll look at it. Anyhow. I'm wasting people's time here with that.
Anyway, just an aside to that, I did not know, but I have confirmed that Beatrice Hand sold her land. She got a very good price, a very healthy 7-figure, 8-figure price, and regrettably, she died about 30 days after that deal was struck.
Oh dear, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's sad. So that must have been a month or 2 or 3 ago. I did not know. I had not heard from her because she had called me on occasion about, and I couldn't really get involved, but I said, well, you make sure you got a good lawyer, Beatrice, to, protect her interests and so on and so forth. She did have her son involved, thankfully. But yeah, she passed away about 30 days after that deal was done. And I can tell you this much, I have no warmth for the Silverberg group, but he felt pretty bad about it himself, actually. He didn't see that coming, of course. And anyway, that's just a side note to that.
When you're getting old, whenever you
I guess if I hear from anyone on that, they're out of the, they're out of the picture now, but it would, if I get a call from her son about particulars, that's probably who I'll hear from at this point if I do it all.
Jerry, you were saying something?
I was just going to say, You know you're old whenever you have sheared sheep for her stepfather.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Well, that's sad to hear that
sorry to
Peter
hear that.
passed
I
away.
never met her, but I talked to her a couple more than several.
Yeah.
Well, the figure.
Other than that, I mean, I don't know.
I'm gonna ask Dave. I'm gonna ask committee members for questions. Elaine Kehoe, are you still here? I'm not sure Elaine's still here. Barbara. Barbara, are
I'm
you?
here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank
I'm
you.
having
Barbara,
a dickens of a time with the internet. So a lot of your presentation was garbled. So I'm looking forward to watching it on the video cam from at the Mono Center site. Thank you for the presentation. My concern, and I appreciate the farm aspect of it, but I'm also a little bit worried about Bill 97 because it will affect our, and I'm putting on another hat now, our registry for our heritage properties. So we have to keep that in mind as well. I'm certain that there's going to be a lot coming forward, and I'm wondering about the financial aspect of how this is going to impact Mono on the development fees. I've read David's report. I've read the bill. I've read every lawyer, I think, in Toronto who commented on this, and I don't know whether they've come to any great conclusions on how this is actually going to work. So I guess we're sort of in a wait and see.
Well, the bill's
Position. Is
gone
that correct,
to,
David?
yeah, it's gone to, I think it's still under second reading with the standing committee. I haven't got the ERO posting open right now.
David,
But the yes.
so Bill 97,
It has cleared.
No, yeah, part of it has.
Okay.
The 0196821 has, and that's the stuff that I spoke with at the outset about the follow-up technical matters to Bill 23. But the portion of Bill 23 relating to the consolidation of the PPS and growth plan, as far as I know, has not closed yet.
No,
That there's
and
a
that,
deadline for comments
Okay.
on August 4th.
yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, to your point, Barbara, there was provisions in Bill 23 dealing with, historically designated properties, and that if it wasn't on a list, then that's been watered down to allow for non-designated properties to be, demolished for development under Bill 23. In other words, it was like if it's important and needs to be designated, it was basically, a call out to all of the municipal heritage committees to get stuff designated. Well, I mean, it wasn't fair because, I mean, there should have been a lead up time to do that. And sometimes designations take, they occur over time anyway. It's not that you can just go out in a matter of a week and just start designating everything. So that provision was not entirely fair in my view under Bill 23. And we'll suffer from that. We'll suffer from a lack of that kept heritage, absolutely.
Barbara, any other questions?
The one thing I did write in my report, if you saw at the end, that I said to council to give me instruction to come back once Bill 97 reaches completion. Well, the Ford government sees that as in the fall of this year. And that's what I'm keeping my eye on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Elaine Kehoe, are you there?
She has her mic on, I can see, Barb.
I see that, but I'm not hearing her. Then, you know what? Well, Elaine Keogh tries to figure it out. Elaine Capes, I know you went through this with council, but do you have any other questions for Dave about this, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I went from my phone to my computer and, you know, that's a challenge for me. Switching
I can
device.
hear you, Elaine.
Okay, good. So thank you, David. I guess until this is actually passed, we don't know the full ramifications of what's going to end up being. So I'm happy to hear about the provision for those 3 lots off the table. I think that's huge. I'm a bit nervous about allowing municipal boundary expansion, as you referred to Orangeville. And I don't know what lands we might have that they might want to expand into, but that's, you know, interesting. There was something in your report, David, on page 6 of 15, and I'm not quite sure I understand it. G talks about the effective date of Bill 109, application fee refund requirements. Like, what does that really mean?
Okay. So Bill 109 came out in the fall of last year, and it basically said all municipalities, planning department, municipal planning departments, you have and you know about timelines under the Plan Act to accept applications, circulate them, get comments on them, and get reports to your local council to render decisions on those applications. And they're generally 90 days or 120 days, depending on how zoning bylaw amendment piggybacks on with an official plan amendment, a plan of subdivision, so forth, so on and so forth. And with site plan, you know, 30 days, give or take. And what it said was, if you don't get those in by the timelines, we're gonna require you to regurgitate back those fees to the applicant on a percentage basis, depending on how many days over you go to get that application to decision. And it was, you know, I think any municipality who's been in this business long enough kind of turned to each other and said, well, give us some more tools, Mr. Ford, give us some more, you know, we're all so busy. I mean, we need some support on that front. And all through that, I said, when is the province going to come out with a sophisticated soft project management software system aligned to the legislation of the Planning Act that's uniform across the board, whether you go from Mississauga, Milton, Burlington, or Barrie? And that should have been done years ago. Should have been rolled out when the growth plan came out. Hasn't happened yet. And that would create a lot more efficiency. That is a tool we desperately need. We're still basically municipalities, except the really big ones that can afford the expensive custom software, are forced to use email as a form of project management, give or take. That's a rough analogy, but I think I
Okay,
can make
you're getting away from my question. I'm sorry. So
yeah,
I just
well,
wanted to understand, because it says any refunds that would have been owed prior to the date,
right.
January, July, are proposed to be retroactively voided. So just
Yes.
what are the implications of that for Mono?
So
Yeah.
in that Bill 109,
Yeah.
this regurgitation of fees, if they applied, was to happen on January the 1st, 2023. And with the backlash from municipalities saying, are you kidding us? The Ford government said through Bill 97, okay, we'll kick that ball down to July the 1st, 2023. So we have a draft amendment to deal with Bill 109 that I'm intending to bring forward on June the 27th, so that we can wrap that up and be in position to address that provision that was evolved through Bill 109, but that pushed the effective date of giving back percentage of fees if it were to occur to July the 1st of this year.
Okay.
I mean, for Mono, for Mono, it's more of a, so because we use a fee and deposit system, our fees are relatively modest compared to our deposits, which we use to offset for review by engineering and legal and so forth. But if you look at municipalities such as Caledon or Barrie or Aurora or Newmarket or wherever, they have all those departments in-house, legal, engineering, building, all the rest of it. So their fee, they don't need a deposit system. They need fees to cover those in-house reviews. So they will get hit much harder if they don't meet those timelines. What a lot of municipalities have therefore done, and we are doing the same, is okay, we're gonna take an application. If we have only this much time to deal with them, and we're waiting to get comments back from the Conservation Authority or the Niagara Escarpment Commission or where have you, and the clock's still running against a local municipality, what most municipalities did is say, okay, we're going to take the whole review process up and upload it to the pre-consultation process. And that's basically what we're doing, part of what we're doing in our amendment that I'm going to bring forward regarding Bill 109. That's what that's alluding to at the bottom of page 6, that the
Okay.
deadline moved from January the 1st to July the 1st.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Thanks, Elaine. Jerry? I don't think we've got Elaine Kehoe online here yet. So, Jerry, questions, comments, please?
No, I read David's report, and it's pending, I guess, the closure of the bill, however they throw it at us. But anyway, that's great. And again, well done, David.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
Elaine Kehoe, you're still not there. Elaine just phoned me, but the cell phone service was just as bad as her computer service. So I don't know what to say. I don't have any more questions. David Trotman, I've just sent you the whole thing about Hillsburg and Blackthorn. There was an article in the Banner this week.
Oh, okay.
799 homes. They had a public meeting in Erin. So that's the people who are behind the 400 and some odd homes on the Hands land. So
That's right.
yeah. So these people are
That's
that's
out in Erin Township. That must be the
Sorry?
hamlet of Erin, is it? Okay.
Hillsburg.
Yeah.
I sent you the link to the article. Anyhow,
I got it.
They're obviously getting aggressive. So, listen, I'm not sure there's anything else. There's a lot to digest here. Committee members, I suggest if you haven't read it, read it again. If you got questions, send them to David and that. But it will. I mean, how does this affect the Planning, Environment, and Natural Heritage Committee? Probably not a lot. We will carry on doing what we have done for almost 30 years. When it comes to these applications, the Mono Planning, Environment, Natural Heritage Committee, aka the Planning Committee, we're a commenting agency. That's David Trotman and I and Susan have talked about this. We're a commenting agency. Like the rest of them, and that's what we did regarding the Aragon application, and that's what we'll continue to do. So I think that probably is enough on this. Any other questions, comments about that? Seeing none. But thank you, everybody. It's an interesting topic, but it will affect us. I'm going to move on then to new business. Let me say a couple of things first. New business, membership of our committee. we had 6. Elaine Kehoe replaced someone who was not qualified to be on the Town of Mono Planning Environment Natural Heritage Committee. So Elaine Kehoe has taken that person's spot. We also had another person who council had appointed to the committee. She did not attend our, well, she did attend the meeting about Aragon, but was in the audience and not with the committee. I had about a 2-hour meeting with her after that because she was trying to understand what the Planning, Environment, and Natural Heritage Committee did. You know, at the end of all of that, she tendered her resignation. She thought that this committee was more promoting protection and stuff of natural heritage versus what we really have done over all the years, which is planning issues and that. So there is a vacancy there. You know, whether or not we'll replace it. We have 5 of us now, and I think that's fine, but it's up to council, and you know, Elaine Capes, our council member on this. So that explains at this point in time, there are 5 of us, a quorum is 3. So that's that. I was going to talk about, and we did this with the Committee of Adjustment committee. Jerry, you remember this. I was going to talk about in-person versus online meetings, but with all of these technical issues here, I don't know. Committee of Adjustment, we're by way of comparison, we're going to go back and forth between in-person versus online meetings. And it just depends on how many applications or whether they're contentious or the like. So I just, you know, send me your feelings about it. If we've got, I don't know what to say with these technical issues and that because
My preference is in person.
sorry,
My preference is in person.
it is also mine, Elaine. And that, so you know, and until you know, the technology, we have reliable technology that Barbara, you've unmuted yourself. I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreements with Elaine. I'm wondering if Elaine Kehoe, we're both on Mono Center Road. It's unreal. I don't know what to do. I mean, they're putting in new lines and what have you, but I don't think this is ever going to improve in my lifetime. So I'm more in favor. The fact that David gave such a wonderful presentation, I couldn't hear all half of it. I had to go off. I dialed in. I'm 100%, unless the weather is totally inclement, which I don't think it will be at this time of the year. We should have in-person meetings. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Jerry, we've talked about this before. You know, this I didn't mind having this as an online meeting, but with all of these technical issues, it near on impossible.
I wonder about the technical issues. We didn't seem to have so many when COVID was going, but anyway, it certainly is a problem tonight. There's no doubt about it, for sure. Anyway, whatever. I guess I'll go with the flow. But I personally think that a lot of the meetings could be had online. But like I say, I appreciate if you're there and not hearing your report. Why it's a waste of your time too. So, and I guess I say that selfishly because I have done it from a tractor and a combine and whatever, and tonight I'm right here. But anyway, so
you know what? We're not going to settle that tonight, and you know, it depends. I mean, the last meeting, the issue with Aragon, there was no question about that had to be an in-person meeting.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Build the council chambers.
Yeah, no.
And that, so
Mr.
there
Chair,
was-
I just want to know why we can't settle this tonight. When do we think we might meet next?
Well, that's I'm gonna get to that next. So, Elaine, I don't know. It is on here. Let's move on to point number 8, date of next meeting. David Trotman, Susan Pottle. What do we have in the works? Is there anything specific that I have it in my planner for the third Thursday of every month. But do we have something for a meeting in July?
I doubt it, because the only next issue would be Roxborough. I mean, Aragon's been appealed, so it's out of committee's hands, it's out of council's hands, directly anyway, logistically. That would be Roxborough, and we have yet to go through it and consider whether or not it's a complete application. And I don't know that that exercise in and of itself needs planning committee. It's a staff level review to determine completeness of an application.
That's not the planning committee. That we have nothing to do
sure
with that. So at this
So-
point in time, we're not expecting a meeting in July.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
So Elaine, Kate's to your question, then keep it in your planner calendar, but probably not. And then so we'll look to August, and if there's stuff there, then quite frankly, given all of this technical stuff here tonight, I'd be happy to have it in an in-person meeting in the council chambers. But let's deal with that if there is anything in August. So that makes sense. Anybody?
Sure, I'm good with
Yeah,
that.
that would make sense.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other new business? And seeing none, then I can't see where the darn anymore. Is it 8:21? Will motion to adjourn from anybody? Jerry?
It's 8:12. It's 8:12 on my
Thank you.
clock.
Yeah, you know what? I've got a cataract in my right eye. I can't see worth the darn. Thankfully, I'm getting it replaced on this Saturday, so that's all on me. All right, with that,
All the best for that, Bob.
well, thank you. It'll be just fine. So, but thank you. And that. So, Susan, with that, we'll adjourn. Last but not least, big thank yous to Susan Pottle and David Trotman for their hard work on this. Thank you to all the committee members for your commitment to this. Much appreciated. And for your good work and caring about Mono. As always, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye now.